Hello and welcome to this central podcast of a little coffee and a whole lot of Jesus. Did y'all get it figured out there?
Yeah.
He was thinking he might have missed something, but he's good.
Oh, he's good. He's right. Wait, welcome to this wonderful podcast time. This is the first podcast of 2022. Mm-hmm. This should be January 5th. If everything works out right, this should be January 5th, right? And so I'm excited about this because this 2022, this is that time of promotion. The promotion is happening. I'm telling you, things are taking place. Now, tonight at 7 o'clock Central Triad Church, we are having an incredible praise and worship service, the beginning of 3 nights of revival services tonight. Do not miss it. Do whatever you got to do to be there tonight. I don't know what time does it go out? About 4 or 5 o'clock? What time does it go out on that day?
It goes in the morning.
In the morning? Yeah. Perfect. So
Plenty
you got all
time,
day.
yes, to gear up because it is time for
the promotion. I wasn't sure. I thought you were the
I'm about to say revival. I don't know.
The goal was we're going with our Wednesday nights and 3 night things. It is time for
it's promotion time.
Good job.
So I'll be spending time preaching tonight and tomorrow night, Wednesday and Thursday night, about this promotion. What does it mean? How do you step into it? What God has prepared for us to have. You do not want to miss this. Be in the house. We do not broadcast these services. These are meant for those who want to be in the room. Mm-hmm. And there's a reason for that, many reasons. But the thing is, hungry is the atmosphere. Hunger is the atmosphere for those moments. So be here Friday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, and of course Friday night as well. Pastor Brett Jones will be here on Friday night preaching and on Sunday morning preaching. But tonight and tomorrow night, all about this promotion. What is God doing? God is raising some people up. And I know it may feel like you've been drugged through some mess, and I know we all have been drugged through some mess, but I'm telling you, the time of promotion is here, and we are going to see it together, and what you've dreamed about is bigger than that. And that's my expectation in this season. That's what I'm feeling very strongly. We're going to see something greater than what we've thought about having in the past. Isn't that a cool thought to think that maybe what I dreamed, Pastor David, it's bigger than that?
To understand that God has your steps ordered, and everything that you thought maybe or you wanted to happen or you wish could have happened, that God's saying, hey, if you just trust me and stay in relationship with it, stay connected to me, I can bring all of that, and not all that you've thought about or wished for or dreamed about, but also so much more that you haven't even seen or been able to comprehend or understand, that I have the ability to bring that to fruition. Come on. What I like about the beginning of the year, and we're sitting here talking about the first week of January 22, is that there's a newness, there's a freshness, there's a revival, and not only that we're having revival services starting tonight, but also there's just this reviving spirit that's in the air.
Yes.
Right.
You know, man, what could happen? What's possible? You know,
yes.
I'm excited
to
see. I'm excited to see
I
that.
love that you said earlier that you feel like you've just been drugged through the muck.
Oh man,
but this is the year of the promotion. Yep. Back in December, you delivered a message about the birthing of our Savior.
Yeah.
And you talked about how Mary and Joseph, there was no room at the inn, and they probably felt like they were being drugged through the muck after everything they had been through.
Right.
God had not even planned ahead enough to make sure they would have a decent room for her to deliver in. However, what you brought to light that day, do you mind sharing some of that with us?
No, this is, to understand that sometimes the mess that we go through is God moving us so that we can get to the position He wants us in. Mm-hmm. And I know that I think even Pastor Chester's had moments like that in his life where God has moved you to position you for what you didn't know. You didn't know what it was. You just thought you'd lost something, right? We don't have a room. You mean the God of all the universe couldn't make a reservation? Right? And make sure there was a room at the end for the birth of His son. But it was much bigger than that. And what's so cool about that is there's an area right outside of Bethlehem called the Tower of Migdal, or Migdal Eder. And so it stands for the Tower of the Flock. And what was amazing about that was that God reveals that there's an area 1,000 steps away, 1,000 paces away from downtown Bethlehem, where they would manage the sheep. These sheep were special. They weren't normal sheep. These sheep were for the temple sacrifices. Mm-hmm. So every year, during the realm of King David alone, there'd be over 250,000 sheep needed for temple sacrifice out there in this field outside the town of Bethlehem. And these sheep are being cared for and protected. King David himself. And so at this area, there's a little bit of a hill there with a tower on it. that's been there for 1,000 years or more, been rebuilt, I'm sure, over time and restructured. And even King David would find himself in that tower watching over those 250,000 sheep that were needed for temple sacrifice, without spot, right? Without blemish, the perfect lambs prepared for sacrifice. And so you would see David write about that tower as he's king. He would write the Psalms. He would talk about that tower. He's our strong tower. His son Solomon would continue that tradition and talk about the tower. And so when you realize that, then you realize that in this tower that these sheep were brought in, the ewes were brought in. It's the mama lamb. I'm not what's the word for that? I'm not a farmer, right? So I can't give you all the deets, but I can tell you this: the female lamb is a ewe, E-W-E, right? And they bring the lamb in for birthing of the baby. And when the birthing happens, it's done in a chamber inside the base of the tower, which is ceremonially cleaned and prepared for the birth of a sacrifice. And so when the birthing happens in that room, then the lamb is examined. If it's spotless, without blemish, then they take strips of cloth called swaddling, and they wrap the lamb to protect the lamb so nothing can happen to it before its time of sacrifice. Absolutely powerful when you realize this. And this tower sits 1,000 paces outside of Bethlehem. So if you can imagine for a few moments, the Mary and Joseph coming through that town, she's about to give birth. Listen, I've watched my wife go through that. I can only imagine riding the back of a donkey for a period of time to deliver, get ready to, at that point.
Riding in the car to the hospital.
Exactly.
I mean,
you heard every bit of it.
I can't even imagine. No. And then they get to the hotel. I'm sorry, we're booked up. You got to go someplace else. I've always had it in my mind, it was always some little dank little manger scene.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Well, you messed that all up for me.
Yeah. There you go. I know, it's like totally rearranged. You made a statement.
Now the song ain't gonna hit right no more. Away in the tower.
Away in the tower. Well, it's still a manger, but it was inside the tower.
But you're right. It does kind of change.
You made a statement. Let us have faith when the inn is full, the hospitals are shut down, and everything else is crazy, that you have a bigger, perfect plan for us. I know sometimes, after he preached that sermon, which totally wrecked Christmas for us, actually it just realigned it in an amazing way. But no, it was not Grinchy at all. It was like, oh my gosh. Because the preparation and the understanding that went into that one episode, that one existence 1,000 years ago. I mean, it's amazing. And so I've caught myself praying, God, don't let me get caught up in that there's not any room at the end and get disappointed in that when you have a place of perfection that's far greater than I even could imagine.
Well, these shepherds that watched over these flocks, they were given a title like Levitical shepherds. In other words, they weren't just shepherds; they were the shepherds that were caring for this very special flock. So their role was ritualistic, their role was ceremonial, and it was very, very important. And so when you know that this tower for 900 years after King David and 1,000 years prior to King David.
They know that tower.
These shepherds know that tower. And in the book of Micah, chapter 4 and verse 8, Micah says, he even declares where the birth of the king would be. He says, oh, you tower of the flock. He declares it. Well, this is the place that these Levitical shepherds know of. They're in it every single day. And so whenever you get to this place where all of a sudden angels appear to shepherds, because we know that the wise men, just to let everybody know, the wise men were not there the night he was born. No. They weren't there then. We've covered that before. They were there 3 to 5 years later at the house in Bethlehem. Right. But when the angels appeared to shepherds, Levitical shepherds, who have been taking care of these sheep for sacrifice, because every year at Passover, at least 250,000 sheep. Well, during David's time, it was 5 million people. So you're looking at 250,000 sheep for sacrifice. So as the ages fluctuate, population goes up and down, that's how many sheep you have to have. They heard the angel say, you will find the babe wrapped in swaddling clothes. When they heard the word swaddling, it wasn't like, let's go. How many productions have we done in the past where these poor shepherds were running around? Remember you did that? We sent you like to 5-6 locations across the stage. Have you seen the baby? We're asking everybody.
Please tell me, where is he?
These angels have told us he's wrapped in swaddling clothes. We don't know where he is. We're hunting him down. We're searching all over town.
Where have they laid him?
He didn't give that to you to ask questions.
So dramatic.
You did that too, I think, as well.
No, I did not.
You didn't have
Just like, no, not me.
I was a bad guy. I stayed a bad guy. That's what
He
it was.
didn't care what a chef was. He's part of that crew, you know.
Oh,
I changed though. I changed.
Oh my God.
You hugged me at the end, so don't do that.
That's it.
That's right. You did. You found salvation. That's right. That's right.
Oh, we digress.
we get this idea that they had to hunt around. No, when they heard you will find a babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, they knew where the swaddling was. There were racks of it in this room at the tower. It was already prepared. So that night, when Mary and Joseph move 1,000 paces outside of Bethlehem, they can't get a room in town, and the tower sits at the end of Main Street, 1,000 paces outside of town. They just kept moving. And as they get there, they go inside. There's everything they need, but not what they needed, but the perfected place, 53 generations of planning to put Jesus at the tower of the flock, to be born in a ceremonial chamber, to represent the perfect sacrifice wrapped in swaddling clothes. When they heard the phrase swaddling, they run to the tower because that's where that is done. And so they come in and they find the babe lying in a manger. And the manger wasn't a food trough necessarily. It was this room, this place of protection and keeping. And so when they see him there, they begin to worship. Kenny, how many times in our lives have we thought it was supposed to be this?
Countless.
And in our minds, that was a pretty high thing.
Right. That would have been the ultimate amazing if that would just happen.
And it falls through.
Yeah. You're
Doesn't
heartbroken.
happen.
You're disgruntled. You're kicking the cat and you're mad at everybody. Let's
Kicking
just
the
be
cat.
honest.
You know how hard it is to kick a cat? This thing moves quick.
They're pretty slinky.
They are. So you're talking about how many times in your life have you thought this was it, and there's no room, no place of position, no place where you can step in and be and give honor and be honored, no place to see development. It just stops, and you go.
Right at the point that you had something that you knew that God had placed within you, that you knew was supposed to be birthed.
Come on.
But now you're just stuck in this, where do I go now? This is how I thought it was going to go. I have something tremendous to birth, but where am I supposed to birth it? And now, how does it even come about?
Right. How's it supposed
because
to work?
this is shut down.
Right.
But the thing to remember is God likes to use what we don't have control over.
Come on.
And when we have control over it, then we take him out of the, him out of the mix. So he's like, okay, you had control over a room, but I just squashed that for you. Now I'm going to take you to a spot where you have no control over, where you didn't even think you were going, so that I can allow the birthing process to take place.
So it can be perfected.
Perfected.
It's for you.
Yeah.
Because if you get, like you just said, if you get what you wanted at that time, you can sit there and look at,
I did it.
Yeah.
I did that.
I was in control.
My plan.
And then that will ultimately bring you down.
Oh, yeah.
But if you go to a point, the humbleness, that's what all I can think of, that I thought this is going to happen. And this is going to happen. And then your whole mindset, what happened with me was my whole mindset changed. I was like, hold on. I've been focusing on this. Now I don't want it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now I do something wrong. I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
I don't want this that I've been working, 10 years for.
Right. Right.
10 years for. But what I wanted, what I recognized was so selfish. I became more of a serving. I love serving. At one point in my life, I thought I served people, but to this time, I've realized that I didn't want this because I'm better here to serve, but I can't serve in this capacity because of my limitations. And you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And then I was like, man, what's going on, God? And he's like, hey, you won't be there long. I was like, well, what that mean? Because my sight is gone. I don't, it's just blemished.
I think it's interesting you make that statement. Could you imagine what was going through Mary's mind? Here she was spoken to by an angel. This is what's going to take place. You're carrying, what's going to be the Son of God. All this that was going through her mind, and now we're getting down to the end of it where it's going to come to fruition. And it's like,
what's going on?
Well, where am I supposed to go and birth this supposedly big time promise, Lord?
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
I mean, you don't. Yeah. Well, so what? In the
You
world's
want a
supposed to
safe
be
environment.
happening?
Now you worry like, I got to make sure this baby is safe.
Imagine what's going through our mind, and a lot of us get to that same point right when we're getting to the end of the journey, the last 1,000 steps.
Yeah.
How many of us we flip the switch? And we begin to doubt, we begin to question, we begin to get angry, we begin to get aggravated. Well, why? I've come this far. You know, they've traveled all this distance. Now, why? Just hanging on to the vision.
You know, I think it's sweet that you went to what Mary would have thought, but I've lived with this man for nearly 28 years, and I know that whenever something goes awry and it has nothing to do with him, he still feels like he has the responsibility of having to fix it. So amplify what Mary was going through physically and emotionally, and then flip it to the male perspective. Well, I've got to fix this. Well, I knew she was probably lying, and it's some angel. I was supposed to believe that. He would have had that room taken care of if it was really God. And then now I've still got to deal with this. I went ahead and married her anyway, so now I'm in question of my integrity. I mean, how am I going to fix this? That's just from what I have learned,
not even my kid.
Just experience of what 28 years have taught me, much less what Scripture has taught. But I love that you said 1,000 steps away from the perfected place of appointment. If we can just take our hands off, God will continue to order our steps because He is a lamp unto our feet.
Yes,
and then you said this, my hands were made for worship and my feet were made for following. I trust you, Lord. How many of our issues would be solved if we just reminded ourselves, my hands were made for worship and my feet were made for following?
And we forget about the tools that God gives us.
Exactly.
You know, that's what we have. The Bible is a big instruction manual, how to keep rolling, how to keep believing, how to strengthen yourself. And also you have the church, which we don't reach out sometimes.
Correct.
There's a lot of people don't reach out. And if people are around you, you build relationships. Yeah. Pastors are here too. And we lean on each other for strength, because we all go through this. You know, it's not a bad thing. It's not like, oh, I'm a terrible person. No, you're going to go through it. But we have to make sure we stick by our principles. Make sure we strengthen each other.
You know, we're going
to 1,000. It's just 1,000
more steps.
How many times we stop at 500?
Oh,
I don't know.
Couldn't comprehend it.
99.
Oh, that's the worst.
That's the worst.
Hey, we're going to continue this conversation in the next episode, next podcast, because there's some more to say here, and I don't want to. We're already 17 minutes in, so we love you. Stay tuned. There's another one coming out. Part 2 of this conversation. You don't want to miss it. Because here at Central Triad Church, we transform lives,
produce believers, and impact the world.
Don't say it like you mean it, people.
Impact the world.
Hey, we love you guys. We'll see you soon.